117 Indoor Rec Centre.
Yep, 117.
117, yep.
Have an update on the chart that we saw at the beginning of the day, which showed what the community spend had been reduced by, and whether there's been any subsequent changes to that spend during the course of today, so that we've got an idea of what's still unspent in the original budget.
Richard.
Can we do it at the start of tomorrow's meeting? Because we need to check exactly. We don't have a lot of finance staff left.
Okay, all right.
But we can provide that as at the start of tomorrow's meeting.
I'm just concerned that if we don't approve this because we think we've got no money,
Right.
then we might find ourselves having to revoke the motion tomorrow to come back to it. And I gathered from the discussion prior to tea that wasn't an option.
Councillor, through you, Mr Mayor, I'll do my best to just work with Stephen on that now. We'll see if we can get that shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I know that Dave has a motion on this, and Ange, did you get together or? So Dave, can we get your yours up as a motion? Stuff. And Dave, can I hand over to you to talk to it? Oh, hang on. Who's the staff member? Page 117. Page 117, Indoor Rec. Okay, so we'll take it as read. Yep.
Mayor Andrew, can I just, before we get into that, can I ask a question about what came out of that little discussion there? Because I mean, it's kind of important to know where we are.
We're going forward tonight and tomorrow staff are going to come back to us with where we are and how it's going to work and what we're going to do.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're still up in the air in terms of...
Sorry, I can't be more specific than that, but if we don't keep going now...
No, we're not up in the air. We know what we're going to do. We're going to bring back a list tomorrow of where we're at, what decisions have been made to get us there, and we'll sit back and see where our rates increases are, and then we'll work out what the next steps are in tomorrow's meeting.
We don't know whether or not we're going to have to revoke things and all this back, or...
The goal is that we avoid revoking things.
Okay.
So Richard will give us or his staff will give us an update first thing in the morning.
No, the key thing...
What's in the morning? Today's Tuesday, isn't it? What's tomorrow?
Wednesday.
What's on council meeting?
2:30 till
Well, we're starting at 2:30.
because Martin and Dave were at the actual.
That's right.
We just try and finish all the line items tonight. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Deputy
Finish the line items tonight, that's it.
Mayor. Have confidence that we'll have a way through.
So we're trying to get through the unfunded proposals before we go home tonight, and that then leaves us tomorrow with to start in a new at the new next stage.
We will bake something overnight.
Okay. So are you just waiting for questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to Dave first.
Well, I was going to explain what this said.
That's good.
And then, so firstly, my understanding is that when the university and Sport Waikato people came to us, they proposed that 6 million be allocated by council towards the overall project. This unfunded report by staff on behalf of the mayor suggested that the resolution be 5 million as a grant by council, an operational grant I think it called it. I'm proposing that council fund with the revenue raised by loan 5 million in year 4 was the proposal here. I'm proposing that we allocate 2 million in year 4 and a further 2 million in year 5, given that the construction will go over over 2 financial years, and that a further 2 million be sought from the Waikato Mayoral Forum via the Regional Council Fund, whose name or perhaps escapes me, but you know the one I'm talking about. and that be funded by whichever system the regional council works out through with the mayoral forum, but that ours not be funded by operational money, so it not come out of rates other than the interest payments on the loan that we've raised for that. So does that, is that understandable? That's how the funding, I mean, I'm not going to argue for or against the item, just how I'm proposing the funding.
Just a question.
Okay, councillor Gary.
Sorry, Paula's name's up there.
Yep.
My name was up there first and I'm just, you know,
Okay.
getting tired and grumpy, so just be warned.
And, sorry, and Angela was seconding it.
I need to clarify something. I get the intention. The intention, I think, Dave and Angela, is that we'll put some money forward and we'll seek some funding from regional ratepayers through some mechanism. You keep referring to the Regional Significant Facilities Fund. There isn't one. I don't know what fund you are talking to, but there's no actual... There's a regional facilities strategy, Blair, yeah?
Sorry, Angela, Paula, the motion doesn't specify the name of the fund. It says...
It does there at the moment, and C.
Oh, yeah, but in small, not as a name, the proper name, that's just a generic.
But when you refer to the Regional Significant Facilities Fund, to me, it seems like you're directing it at a fund that doesn't exist. Now, I understand the intent is to try and...
Suggest some wording to us that
I'm just going to ask Blair to maybe be helpful, but I have to say again, just for clarity, that the Regional Economic Development Fund isn't for these kind of proposals. So you may have to seek a different sort of mechanism with the Regional Council. Support the intent to get some sub-regional funding, Dave, but do you see what I'm saying? We're poking a direction at something that doesn't actually exist. I don't know if Blair wants to comment.
Thank you. So I've just, councillors, I'm just maybe just to help clarify here, and Councillor Dave certainly asked many questions, but it's called the Regional Funding Facilities Framework. That's the name of the policy that's been adopted by the Mayoral Forum. And that
regional
Funding Facilities Framework. Sorry, Regional Facilities Funding Framework.
Regional
Facilities Funding Framework is the name of the policy that's been adopted by Mayoral Forum and referred to all councils. That policy outlines a process for assessing funding for facilities where they may be spanning more than one council area, either sub-regionally or regionally. The framework's very clear that where and only where a facility is seen as a completely regional facility will the regional council be the funder of that particular facility. Where it is a sub-regional facility, in other words, some councils but not all, then the policy is very clear that that is a matter for the councils to get together to determine the funding. So the intent here is that this facility is seen as a sub-regional facility. Whilst the framework can provide the mechanism for the conversation, the funding would come from conversations between our council and those other beneficial councils. The regional council would not see themselves as the funder. And they've made that very clear to us recently through the theatre.
Considering that the proposal came via Sport Waikato, citing the regional sporting facilities funding study, and again using small letters because I probably haven't got the name exactly right, and that the use of it will be for sporting teams and organisations covering the whole region, as well as Hamilton, that I don't see a problem. When Matthew Cooper came and spoke to it, he spoke to it not as Sport Waikato, but as promoting the regional sports facilities policy or whatever they came up with. So that's why we've gone the regional way. But I mean, I think actually people are getting tied up in knots here about the clear idea is to get some funding from outside Hamilton because it's going to be used by people outside Hamilton, something that we struck out with but had wanted to do with the Rotatuna Recreation Centre proposal 2 years ago. So that's the intent there, and I think
Dave, it's not that, it isn't actually that easy to get it out of the region. Do you think that we just go for 4 until university, they've got to find the other 2 from the region?
No, this is not saying that it's dependent on that. This is saying that that we basically assist in seeking an extra 2 million on top of the 4 million we would give. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and the university will have to do something else. It'll revert or default to your position. Is that, Angela, is that how you'd? Yeah. But it says give that a try because we think there's a regional case for it.
Okay.
I think
Councillor,
Helen has a
Yeah, can I just, so it would just be a matter of the wording, because at the moment the motion refers specifically to the Waikato Regional Council, and what Councillor McPherson is referencing is the mechanism, the regional facilities funding framework, which enables those conversations to happen. So it's really in the wording of the motion. No, you'd still use that mechanism. It just wouldn't be the Waikato Regional Council. It wouldn't be via the Waikato Regional Council.
Well, look, I'm sorry, but I've had this in front of staff for about 5 days now, including the general manager in charge of that area. And, you know, I hate these situations where someone picks at individual words when they don't well know the meaning.
look, I'm comfortable with what's there. It's the Waikato Mayoral Forum and the Waikato Regional Council. And it's in those forums that we bring these things up. Okay, so it's normally at the Waikato Regional Council and it's the Waikato Mayoral Forum. And so the Waikato Mayoral Forum puts the Waikato Regional Council under pressure to actually help us facilitate this type of thing. So I do think that your wording up there is actually very good.
Can I just suggest, Mayor Andrew, that possibly you might want to, or Councillor Dave, remove the reference to Waikato Regional Council. It's actually, you would work through the Mayoral Forum and it's in accordance with the Regional Funding Facilities Framework. So I think I completely support what Councillor McPherson is trying to achieve, and it is working through the Mayoral Forum in accordance with the funding framework to seek funding from other councils in the region, but it's not across the entire region. So it's just...
No, hang on, you're saying it's not across the entire region. I mean, all you're doing is creating a debate that no one's even raised yet.
Well, I'm supposing that the Indoor Rec Centre would be unlikely to be a fully regional facility. It's more likely to be of sub-regional benefit.
Well, that's okay. Well, we'll have a debate about that then, because I don't agree with you. And that's not... look, when I run a school volleyball competition, I have teams from Thames, Taupo, Tekawiti turning up. That's the whole region, plus all the ones in closer.
Councillor Dave, are you happy with the wording?
If you agree, Angela.
Helen, are you okay?
I think it gets there.
I think it's clear.
Yep.
Right, so Councillor Mallett?
Just to be very clear, it says the third 2 million will come from regional ratepayers in year 4 via the Waikato Regional Council. So that means that roughly Hamilton City Council residents, because they are part of the Waikato Regional Council, will be paying about half of that last amount too, does it? Is that what it means? Yeah.
Quite possibly, yeah.
So, almost precisely.
No, they haven't worked out the percentage.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But so just to be quite clear, that you're not excluding Hamilton City Council residents, making their pro rata percentage of that third.
No, it's like the other one that we had earlier.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping us negotiating for that not to happen either through this. So the intent would be to actually have this distributed across non-Hamilton ratepayers to the other sub-regional or regional contributors to or users of the facility.
Yeah, well, it just needs. Sorry, but that if that's the intention, it needs to say that.
No, look, I think.
It does say that, Gary, because it says
From regional ratepayers, so it doesn't say from...
We're regional ratepayers.
Yeah. Look,
We are part of the Waikato region.
guys,
We're overcomplicating it.
again, you're tying it in knots when it doesn't need to be. It's saying that there should be some responsibility for funding from outside Hamilton, and that should be done via the mayoral forum, because that's the place that gets together in the first instance. And the regional council has been used as the collection point for a number of those in the past, starting with the velodrome just down the road from this.
I'm fairly clear from a staff point of view how we would affect this. So I'm comfortable with
So does regional ratepayers in C, regional ratepayers in little r's, mean excluding Hamilton?
No, it could mean, and Councillor Dave answered that, it could mean it comes from those regional Hamilton-based ratepayers, or it means it may not do. It's given me discretion to go off and actually work out the best solution for funding this. All Councillor Dave's suggesting is that some of it should come from the regional council.
And point D says that the negotiated or arranged outcome come back to us anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Do you think it would be better if Sport Waikato, that is Matthew Cooper, pursues the other TLAs for a share rather than us? I think he's got generally more credibility. We seem to get a roadblock whenever we go to any of our TLAs, and I take an exception that the work, Mayor Andrew, that you're doing for the regional theatre, but we seem to generally get a roadblock when we go and ask them. Like Sarah Ulmer, I'm sure that Matthew's got, you know, the power of persuasion to get them to talk through their share of the funds.
But that may that's a good point, and that may very well be the tactical way that our management handle this.
Yep.
You know, that's how I'd be amazed if they didn't draw Matthew Cooper into helping with the, you know, tout it around.
Because once we put a value up there, that's what we're kind of promising, or that's what we're approving, and that just allows, if that's all that's required, it just allows the other parties to turn off and not pay a percentage.
I guess the approach here is what's important. We're saying of the 6 million the university said that needed, we think it's fair, given likely usage, that we cough up 2/3 and that someone else takes responsibility for the other third. You know, and that's and then report back to us on how you've gone with that's the.
So our motion effectively does that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other question is, ultimately we'll have a service agreement with the university, and I know the one with the Gallagher Performing Arts Centre has been a little bit flaky at times. Will we have perhaps a more stronger service agreement, maybe one that's similar to the Rototuna one, which I understand is performing quite well? Yep.
And we asked the general manager as well, and he said yes too, before we wrote it up.
Okay, thank you.
Voting. Right now you're voting. I'm sorry, I called for the vote.
Yes, I know you did, but it just confused me that it would be questions, you wouldn't have any debate. I would prefer to have some debate. I think,
I was calling for debate simply because I actually don't know, and I just wanted to hear the arguments. It was more the same thing, it was going to listen, but it's a pretty big one to go through.
Okay, we'll go to the debate.
The proposition that Sport Waikato and the university put up to us was that the university had the land and the complementary facility, being the pool, that could make a good recreation complex there, and subject to a good governance organisation being put in place, that should be the next place for one of these to happen. They've said that there should be 2 to 3 large recreational facilities in the Waikato. Rototuna Rec Centre is one. This would be the second one. When they first came to us about that, they talked about the figures, the numbers of people playing that sport that would need an indoor sports facility or would use it. They showed that there was a huge gap there, a bigger gap than there is with outdoor sporting facilities, though there's also a gap there as well. there's an opportunity here to leverage council money and get a much bigger university and community contribution. I think we've done very well in general out of the Rotatuna Recreation Centre by putting in $6 million capital and getting a $13 million facility. This is slightly bigger and more centrally located in a regional sense as well, that corner of Hamilton to the east and the south and the west than Rotatuna is. I think that it fills a need. It's for $4 million we're getting, I can't remember what the total was it a 6, 8? Was it 8? Yeah, no, four courts, but was it 18 million or project? Sorry, but that's not, I'm not. 25 million. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be doing that in the debate anyway. We're leveraging a considerable amount of support. So I'm suggesting to councillors, knowing the situation we're in, that this happen in years 4 and 5. So when we come round in 3 years' time to doing the next LTP with the next council, that is the final opportunity to sign this off. So it doesn't obviously absolutely lock in a future council, but gives everyone a good direction to start with. And it doesn't overcommit us in any of our funding situations.
Councillor Ange.
Thank you. Look, this is core community business for me. The proposed funding, as Councillor McPherson has just said, doesn't come in until year 4 of the current plan, and the reality is, as we have, or as I know, certainly of sitting around this table, that the 10-year budget is actually a 3-year budget, because we do a reset every 3 years. So that's the reality of that. We need to get ahead of these community facilities for the future, so that we're not left in the difficult and testing and trying position that we were of waiting for several years before we did anything with our first Rotatuna Indoor Rec Centre, which is a booming success. So hopefully, Mark, some of that and Councillor McPherson's helps to swing your vote.
Deputy Mayor Martin.
Yeah, I'll support this at this time, and Dave's right. It is in the next term. There's another LTP to go through. My support at this point is conditional on that we do get funding from outside Hamilton, and again, you know my views on. And the location of this is the key thing. Is Dave, you're telling us it's got the pool as part of the deal. Location-wise, it's right next to the expressway. There's a whole lot of transport things where this is a really good regional facility, and I do think there's a point where we will come to where something will happen if, if it's a regional facility, we have to get regional funding, and I think we have to play really hardball on this. I think we have to say to Matthew Cooper, Mr. Cooper, you've got to go and help us, because if you want this project, you have to deliver support from the region.
Okay, it's 3-4. Anyone want to speak against it? Gary, go for it.
Thank you. I think you'll expect what I'm going to say. This is unfunded for a reason. We are simply out of dough. I noticed that there's a consequential operating expenditure of $120,000, which straight away comes onto rates. I think I'm right in saying we're borrowing $4 million at 5, and are we about 5? What's our funding cost? About 5.5%, something like that. So that's another $220,000. So plus 1, 2, 0. So your consequential operating costs of this thing are going to be $340,000. That's straight onto our rates. So I just can't support it. I'm sorry. Every year, yep. Every year, forever.
Anyone else against?
Every year from year 5 on.
Yeah. And that's assuming the $120 annual operating expenditure doesn't. They'll come to us and say, "Can you up that 2 or 3 years into it?" So that's a conservative estimate.
Councillor Paula.
I'm speaking for. Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, you can.
Oh, thanks. Just
I opened the gates for you.
Did you? All right, thanks. Oh, yes, of course, consecutive, thank you. Yes, I agree that this partnership model is the one we need. I very much hope that a turf or turfs could be part of this and it's not just all indoor facility, because we're really, really short of turf space. But anyway, I'll just mention that. We did do the regional sports facilities plan and the regional arts plan for a reason, and that was to think regionally across those assets. And I'm just going to mention now that it's great that we'll go for some regional funding, we so should, but at the same time, when someone else comes, say from Morrinsville or somewhere else, to establish a home of soccer or something else, they're going to come to us for a share of regional funding. I hope we're going to be as willing at that point to participate in a cross-boundary conversation, because that's what this regional sports facility plan is about. It's providing what people need at the scale they need, where they need it. But you know, look, I'm happy for this to go ahead. It's a little bit less than the university expected, but as Angela says, we've got a number of years to kind of do the business case and see what else we can generate. So, thank you.
Rob?
Thank you. Look, I strongly support joint ventures with other strong and credible community organisations, and this needs to be chosen for the same reasons the Regional Theatre, Performing Arts Centre and the Rototuna Indoor Courts. Such ventures send a strong message that that community support is best recognised when other parties offer financial and ongoing operational support to city community facilities. The days of expecting the ratepayer to solely support and fund high-value ventures is over. Community funding is also recognition that these facilities are needed in the city. I'm just a little bit confused by the word capital expenditure. I'm not sure whether that means a loan, and does that loan get repaid, and when? Or is it interest-free, or is it a suspensory loan that is eventually written off? So I'd like to get some clarity around that. But I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to the board to vote.
That's capital expenditure.
Just in time.
Well, we'll end up with a loan though in the accounts. We'll end up.
Okay, Dave? Excuse me, Dave? Is this your motion?
No, I think that's fine. Oh, sorry,
No.
just maybe on
Yes, it
Rob's
is.
point.
So, just hang on. There's a change. There's a technical change you need to make to the motion. So I just want to make sure you're a part of it. Stephen?
The grant would technically, in accounting terms, be an operating expenditure, but we can still fund it from debt. So
Okay.
just replace the word capital in the two instances.
That
with,
helps
with
Rob's
operating.
point, yeah.
Okay, Rob, you're happy?
Funded from debtors was the intention.
Ange? You happy?
Funded from debt.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Voting? All good. Cool. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, Ange, do you want to come to vote? Okay.
The motion is carried 10-4, 2 against.
Okay, can we have an update now of where we are before we go through the rest of these tonight?
Good one, Mark, good one. You still got it later again. You still got it.
What, you still got it?
Well, I think so.
Dad
Who's
jokes.
talking to this, Steve? Who? Sean. Sean. Is Sean talking to this? Steve, who's talking to this? Okay. We'll get someone else to hand out the paperwork. Let's keep it moving. Sean, off you go, mate. Sean needs one.
Yep, so this is an update of the what we'd refer to as the community infrastructure. So this is the capital budget. So just to be clear, this isn't everything that we've talked about. This is just the capital budget that is in the report. So again, the original capital budget was 18,512,000. So So all the decisions we've made to date around that items in that capital budget at 55,812,000, and then the 2 resolutions to reduce the community infrastructure budget, those 17.3 million, and so there's 7.4 remaining out of that original budget.
So this doesn't include the 2 million that we just, 4 million?
It doesn't include the 4 million. No.
Doesn't, okay, so
So just to be clear, so that 4 million, it won't include that, because that's actually operating.
it's operating, yeah, okay.
Today, left.
It's the magic of accounting. No, it's so
Sean reached into his own pocket.
sorry, I shouldn't be flippant. There's $500,000 more. Originally we had the Road to Turner Community Facilities as 18.5 million, and the resolution was actually for 18 million. So that's the extra $500,000. So
Which
I
was,
think it was 6.9 million remaining yesterday, and now it's 7.4.
Okay, so we're now going to the Gallagher Performing Arts Centre on page 72.
Down the
Page
bottom,
72.
Yeah, items, paragraph 72, on page 72.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So Angela, did you have a motion you wanted to pass on this?
Did I? No, I don't think I did with this one.
Okay.
I've only got rivers and a river slips. Yeah, this wasn't my one.
Paula, I think you put this one up, I think.
Yeah.
Whether or not you wanted to shut funding.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss it. I don't know, did I come up with the thing?
Okay,
No, I
so,
didn't.
I mean, largely I took it out of the budget because 20 years has run its course. I think it's 20 years, it's done and dusted. We've just committed a whole lot more money to the Waikato University through a motion we put up to support that for the next 20 years, is it?
What we just did, is that 20?
Well, it's how long we'd take out the debt for.
Yeah, so I didn't put it in there because to me, we'd fulfilled our obligations to Waikato University. We'd fulfilled the contract. The contract comes to an end in July next year or something, and it had run its course. And that's what we'd agreed to at the beginning, and why would we just extend it? That's where I am. That just to give you my rationale of why it wasn't in the budget.
You also mentioned it because we just invested $30 million in the theatre as well.
Yeah, it's just we can't be everything to everybody forever, and we did fulfil our obligation. That's where I'm coming from.
Wasn't it also? Didn't you also mention around the aligning it with because we don't give grants anymore? Is that right to the other 2 theatres? Was that right or no?
That is correct. They would be eligible like the other theatres to apply,
Yeah, to apply,
to the
that's
contestable
right.
funding round.
Yeah.
So if we just leave this one alone, that's the end of it. Is everyone happy with that?
I just have one question.
Yep.
Aligned with that, and this is Martin's big thing, was some community usage. Was the community usage predicated on us doing the operating grant, or are we still happy that the university will honour that, or do we expect them not to have to honour that anymore?
I would expect that we wouldn't have a voice on that anymore.
Yeah, okay, so we
And
just
we
need
would lose our voice when we stop
so we
giving
just
them
need to
money.
understand that's a consequence we just need to understand, yeah.
We can't expect to have a voice when, yep.
Has the university approached us, given that they were also, or should be aware that the contract was drawing to a close? Have they made any approaches to you or to staff about the renewal of the contract? I mean, the first...
They did, they spoke here.
No, yeah, but that's not what I'm suggesting. Have they been in to see our community staff or the mayor to ask for a renewal of the contract?
They haven't made a formal approach or put in an application to extend or a request to extend, but we do understand that their preference is that it is extended, but
Yep.
they haven't put in an application or a formal request to do that.
But they're expecting us to do that without them submitting to us the advantages of us remaining as a contributor to the Performing Arts Centre that we made quite a substantial capital grant to when it was first built.
They haven't stated that they're expecting us to do that, but like I say, without them putting in a formal request to do that, then, they're aware of...
Would you expect them to?
I would expect them to put in a
Okay.
request, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure what this one means, library network capacity and optimisation, so...
Just sorry, Andrew, that's currently out of the budget. And Paula wanted to readdress it. Are you?
No, Councillor Southgate wanted to discuss it.
Yeah,
And basically, unless someone's putting for an amendment forward.
Okay.
They can come. I mean, they've been fantastic in telling everyone that the City Council has put all this money in over the years. They've been marvellous. Everyone knows, including senior staff in this building, know totally like not. They can line up at the LTP. They can just come along and make a submission at the LTP, because I want, with respect, colleagues, I want that to be the last example where we donate ratepayer money, and there's no acknowledgement of ratepayer funding in essence. And we've got new models now. Anyway, they can come along in July or whenever and make a case.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few things. I know that they are surprised by this decision, and in fact they didn't understand that they were expected to make any formal request for continuance, but I guess they were looking for hang on, I'm speaking. They were looking for a further conversation. I believe that if we don't put that money in, we won't get the quantum of community use that we've had, because that is subsidised by the university. I would like us to have a conversation with them, to invite them to the table for this conversation, rather than just making a sort of unilateral decision to do away with it. We're in the new model of partnerships. We're working with the Vice-Chancellor who's very pro-partnerships. Obviously, when you just consider the conversation we had about the previous item, the university is going to be a willing partner.
Sorry to interrupt, but you need to put up a motion if you want to talk about this further. There's no one else at this table who wants to talk about it further. If you want to take it further, you need to put a motion.
I'll finish my one statement, because you did indulge Martin Gallagher for a little bit of a go on it, so I just think it's fair.
Well, do you want to put a motion?
No, I just want to say I think it's a wrong decision. Leave it at that.
Happy for you to put a motion and test the room, because that fixes it. That tests the room.
I don't get the impression that anybody else is going to be open to that.
And it's fair to go back to the university. Let's give the university a clear message. I think it'd be good. I'll put up a motion and test it, then vote against it, because no, seriously.
Okay, moving on.
I'll put up a motion just to have it on.
Okay.
Now I'll put up a motion that we invite the university to have a conversation about continuing the. The 2 million support for the university prior to making a decision. It's an unfunded item. I'm talking about having some engagement with them.
Hang on, Paula,
I'm sure this is going to lose, but I'm just going to put it on the table.
Paula, this is a 10-year plan discussion. This is about putting funding up in a 10-year plan. You need to put up a motion that's appropriate for what this meeting's about, not a random motion about something that is unconnected to this meeting. So put up a motion that's connected to funding for the long-term plan.
I think you're misunderstanding me, Mayor, and I resent you calling it a random motion.
It needs to be connected to the long-term plan.
It is connected, because I would like to engage in some conversation with the university about the continuance of the 2 million in the long-term plan. That's quite straightforward, I thought. But, but I don't suppose I'll get a seconder, but at least it's on record that I proposed it. Or whatever the amount is that's presently in there, sorry.
Does the university have the opportunity, like anyone else does,
How much is that?
to...
Yes.
Hang on, you don't even know what I was going to say.
Make a submission. Yes.
165,000 per annum it was, sorry.
No, it's not.
Helen just said it was.
It's 119,397 to 142 Depending on the use.
Yeah, depending on it, but it has been up to 165,000. That's around what they've collected each year. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do.
Okay, moving on to the next
Continuing-
paper.
Do I not get to chest if I've got a seconder? It was having conversation with the university to continue the funding through their 10-year plan at its current level, and I doubt I'll get a seconder, but then...
Councillor, if I may, can I just test this? So I think what me and Andrew was trying to say before was that the purpose of this meeting is to decide whether funding is in or whether funding is out. So to that extent, the motion is not entirely relevant to the context of the meeting. You either need to put a motion, can I suggest, up to include funding in the 10-year plan, because a conversation leaves council none the wiser about whether the money is in or out.
All right, well, let's take out the words conversation and just put to continue.
I'll do a Mr. Gallagher and for the diplomatic process here, or the
Thanks,
process.
James.
I'll second it to see how it goes.
There's not that many votes at the
I
end,
can't
James.
take it unless the democracy manager says it's relevant to the long-term plan and the funding options. So I need a figure up there of what we're talking about.
At its current level, I said.
Sorry.
No, so we need it, so to make it clear what, we need a affirmative or negative in terms of the funding. So if you don't want to include funding in there, there's no resolution to be put forward. If you want to put
What's the
funding
level?
back-
You give me the funding level.
So the amount has been up to 165,000. That's been in the agreement with them, and that's what's been allowed for in the budget up to the end of the contract.
What she
But
said.
they've collected no more than 142,000 at any one
Oh,
time.
140,000 then, if that's...
The funding for the Gallagher Performing Arts funding is included in the budget at up to 165,000 per annum.
Yep, thank you, that would be fine, just to test it.
Which has been seconded by
Thank you, James, appreciate that.
Nigel. Is that direct negative?
Oh, can I'll have to find the original motion. Where's the original motion?
It's not, this is not included.
There is no original motion because the funding has expired, and so it's just assumed in the budget that the funding doesn't continue. So the motion on the board is fine, in my opinion.
Okay, councillor Paula, you're on for debate.
Should continue it until we've had at least a decent engaged conversation with the university about that and the value it brings. I do take on board Councillor Gallagher's views that in the past not enough respect for our contribution has been given to us, and I think the current Vice-Chancellor would agree with that. I know that they have been taken by surprise about this. We're trying to maintain a really cooperative, valued partnership with the university. There could be all kinds of ways that we'll partner with them going forward. So I just think that we, very least, we should continue until we've had that conversation. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I think that we have given so many loud signals to the other party that we were dissatisfied with their failure to recognise ratepayer, and the Chancellor's been there for some time. Frankly, I'm amazed they didn't get the signals. It would have been so easy to rectify that. They didn't. But the key thing to me is your choices. We are making a massive contribution to community arts in terms of our assistance for the other groups and also for the regional theatre. So I don't think we have to be apologetic. Now, what happens if Paula's motion, and I with regret will not be voting for this with sadness because we've got to make some choices, but what that does mean is that they will see that we have put this into an unfunded category, and we will very respectfully receive them to make their case. Also, what they know coming out of tonight is that we have a much bigger proposal on the books. And if I was the university, I would probably say, yes, that's unfortunate we're losing that particular funding, but the big picture one is the massive development in terms of the indoor rec centre. So I think you might be pleasantly surprised. And let me acknowledge the leadership of the current Vice-Chancellor, particularly in terms of a lot of other areas. So this is not being disrespectful to the uni, but it's just saying at this point we have X amount to put to the arts and creative arts and performing arts, and we're making some very significant investments in another way.
Councillor Gary.
Sorry, I'll just withdraw.
Councillor Mark.
I'll speak against this because I think this we've done our dash with it, and we have moved our focus to the regional theatre now. We have had a good run with them, and I think Gary and I were on the Well Trust when we came to this phase with our sponsorship of the very same thing. I don't think we need to worry about the community involvement with the thing, because I'm pretty sure that the Gallagher tie-up will ensure that for us. And, you know, like Andrew says, we've lost our voice on that, and I'm not going to lose any sleep at all over this decision.
Councillor Dave.
Yeah, I think the proper place for the university to put its view forward is in the submission process after we put out a draft. I think they, if they didn't foresee this coming, then perhaps they haven't looked at the contract for a long time. However, I'm not quite as jaundiced about them as the Deputy Mayor. I don't necessarily care whether they mention us in dispatches all the time or give us free seats at any one of their 100 activities there over the last 20 years. That doesn't really matter. What's important is that it's available for the community, and I think it still will be, but let them tell us if we've got that wrong, and they can perhaps realise that funding isn't forever unless there's a good reason. So tell us the good reason in the submission process. It's not too late, but it might be if you don't sort of come to that party.
Councillor Ange.
Yeah, thank you. This is around $28 million over the 20 years. And I think the time now is to be fair and equitable to our other community theatres. We don't have annual grants to those. We have a contestable fund, and the Clarence Street Theatre and Riverlea and Meteor can apply to that. So I think that should apply to this community theatre now as well. We've also signalled a significant new indoor rec centre for the university, so they are certainly going to be finding some love from us, getting some love from us in the future. And also we've our focus, as has been pointed out, needs to now be on the new theatre, and that's a significant investment as well.
Okay, we'll go to the board to vote.
The motion is lost. 11 against, 1 for.
Okay, so we're now going to page 338. And hey guys, we've still got about 1, 2, 3. We've got 12 items to get through, and I want to get through these tonight. And really, if there's no interest, and if there's a quick show of hands to show that when there's little chance of getting there, why are we putting ourselves through this pain? Okay, so let's get real, and these are unfunded items. Let's move quickly. If it isn't the support, let's just stop the questions, stop the debate, and just say we won't go any further. Okay, so we're on page 338. Okay, is there any interest in this paper of significance around the, is there any significant, yeah, okay, put your motion and we'll see if there's a seconder. Okay, can we get it up on the board, please? Okay, can you talk to that while it's coming up, please?
Thank you. In the light of our aspirations for Garden Place in the central city and at the same time to implement key aspects of the library's plan, I read the tea leaves and I realised there wouldn't be a lot of room to do things in the library, but I do want to make progress. I want to make progress as a good citizen of Garden Place and improve the frontage of the library and the front space of the library. There's opportunities to perhaps lease the space that was once used by Vizique. We've also heard a new idea today that the Citizens' Advice might take a space in the library. That's going to be interesting. And the other thing is that I do think we've got two very ageing libraries, Chartwell and Hillcrest, that need something sooner rather than later, or they're also going to become tired little places for the community instead of what they really can be. So I do think we need to give some love to libraries. I have. That's. Oh, you're wasting my time more than I am. Right, it's explained.
Okay, can I ask the room if there's any interest in taking this further? Yep, Ange first.
I just wanted to know what's operating up there and what's capital. I'm assuming it's all capital.
Yes, that is all capital, and there is consequential OPEX that is in the model associated.
Is that included in here, or is it?
It's not in the resolution, but it will be, and finance do have those figures.
So
It's in the proposal. There's a financial table in the proposal on page. Yep. So for each of those options, so for the central library, which is point under 42.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's in different years, I think, but yes, it's in different. I know that's correct. It is.
So is it the 392,000? No, that's not right.
So for the central library, that's the top one. So the only thing that's different is the year. So, but the consequential OPEX that's in the table is attached to that capital amount. And then in point C, you've got 355 in year 3 for Hillcrest expansion, and the consequential OPEX for that is under 21, paragraph 21. And then the 70,000 for Chartwell, that's in year 6, which is different to the table, but it's around 25,000 per year in OPEX. And that's mostly depreciation.
So does that need to be in here, in the resolution?
Helen, could I please ask you to work with Becca to put those figures in? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Process, is there a possibility that we could vote on these separately? Because some of these I'd support, some of them I wouldn't. Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy to take them. What do you mean? A split between the central library and the outer libraries?
Yeah, just A, B and C.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're finished with questions, we're into debate? Yeah? Okay, debate. Paula, you moved it.
Oh yeah, look, I don't want to repeat what I've said, but okay. I do just want to make the 3 key points. This goes some way, but nowhere near probably enough to implement the libraries plan, and the Central City Revitalisation Plan. I think this is a way where we can be a really good tenant in Garden Place. And as I've said, look, we know the pressures that are coming onto the Hillcrest and Chartwell Library, and we know we must do something about those. So yes, please give a little bit, please consider giving a little bit of support to our libraries, because they are well-loved services of this City Council.
Gary.
Sorry, I can't see the motion.
Can we come back to you?
Yep.
Councillor Jeff.
Yep, thanks, Mayor Andrew. Look, obviously I've got sympathy for this, but I can't support these being in. There's enough pressure on years 1 to 3 in the plan that I can't support them in years 1 to 3. That's it, really. Councillor
Siggy.
Mayor Andrew. Well, I just, for me, it's really about just revitalising Garden Place, and with the library being open, hopefully there will be more people coming back into town and having something to go to, and just looking at other libraries and where they have got cafes and other spaces, and having well, hopefully the Citizens Advice Bureau in there, and I can see eyesight or some form of eyesight in there too. So a suite of things in there, and making it open for people is just so important. At the moment, it's just like the council, it's a bunker. It's just closed up so much that it doesn't draw the people in that probably might come along and really enjoy that. I just think of Auckland, wow, what a busy hub that is. And if we want to bring more people into the city and we want to somehow make Garden Place a more happening place, that might be just support this idea. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
With regret, I will not be supporting this at this point, but I think it's great because it'll be listed in the document so we can receive submissions. But can we be crystal clear? And the reason is that I put my priority at this point to get the Rototuna Library Community Centre underway. That is hugely significant. So I prioritise that. The council in 3 years' time, when they revisit the LTP, obviously would have an opportunity to revisit this particular proposal. So it's not as though we're not going to do something for 10 years, but at this point, in terms of our funding challenges and funding mix, I honestly think we have to choose. And it's regretful. I'm open-minded if we can get some wiggle room somewhere else down the track, and hopefully we can. I'll listen to submissions very respectfully, but I do think it's a huge achievement getting the Rototuna one underway.
Councillor Gary.
I can't support this for obvious reasons. I've been consistent all the way through about my concerns about the current model for libraries as being obsolete, and the CBD library is the most obsolete of those. And here we are talking about trying to improve engagement with Garden Place. It's a blimmin' library. I mean, I cannot for the life of me see why you're trying to improve. It's a library where there are books and you go in there and read and things like that. What's improving? What the engagement with Garden Place is completely ultra-virus. It's outside what it should be doing. So no, I can't support this.
Councillor Dave.
I'm going to actually support this. When I compare it with another institution on Garden Place called Eyesight, and the amount that we'll be spending on that over 10 years, that would more than fund this, and I think this is much more core business than Eyesight is. So that's one point. Point two, I do think the library is an important focal point, as are the Hillcrest and Chartwell libraries, and we can't just keep them running down over the years. I would hope, however, that staff are going to be looking at ways to improve engagement with Garden Place by redesigning the front of the library anyway as part of business as usual, but it will cost money to actually do that work, and I would certainly hope that point B happens regardless of whether the motion passes or not, because we should be investigating how to maximise the use of that both in a cultural and a financial sense. But I think at the moment it is a higher priority than some of the other things. And certainly when we come to the wash-up at the end, if we have one, I will be putting this above Eyesight.
Councillor Leo.
Yeah, look, I think we've got to realise it's not a bottomless pit that we've got here. And this list is getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And I can't support this at all. Perhaps we could have we've got voted for Garden Place and we've got slides and God knows what. Perhaps we could put one on the first floor of the library and that might cover the park we're going to put in there. Who knows? I'm getting a bit tired of this, to tell you the truth. Want.
Councillor Mark.
I'll support it out of support for Paula and how important this is to her, and I can see some merit in it. I don't think it's going to get across the line, but I would like to be encouraging towards it. I think there is a really good opportunity to, I know you're a little bit cynical about engaging with Garden Place, and perhaps that's the wrong word to use, but I think we do need to make it integrated with Garden Place. It's a lot more of a flowing thing. The interesting thing will be, though, is if we do have a road in front of it, and then you try and engage, do you engage across a road or whatever it is? But I'm talking directly right there, across it. You know what I mean. Don't start me on this. It's late. So yeah, I'm waffling. Thanks. Finished.
Okay, we're going to the board.
On the A, is that 400 net consequential OPEX that's effectively 40,000 per year, or is it 400,000 per year?
Yes, sorry.
That's 40,000. Okay, so it's not exactly
I
40.
say we'll pay for it in 6 years.
Okay. We're voting, guys. Okay. Okay, take them separate. First one. So you're doing A. Okay, I'll use my casting vote and say no. So, whatever.
The motion is lost on the casting vote of the chair.
Okay, B. Okay, C. Yeah, true. B is part of A, yeah. So, C.
It still is leasable, independent of what decisions are made regards the frontage of the library. So B probably still does stand.
What about Citizens Advice Bureau?
Oh well, it's the discussion.
That can Okay.
You need to vote on B.
Cool. Voting on B.
So there'll be no money to do this though?
We're voting on
B.
It's a standalone shop, so. Who hasn't voted, guys?
Affirmative, Gary.
The motion is carried 10-4, 2 against.
Okay, and C.
The motion
Okay, I'll
is
use my casting vote to say no.
we just see the vote first?
Yep, sure.
the motion is lost on the casting vote of the chair.
Take a photo. Okay, we're now moving to Waiwhakariki, pages 349 to 351, and we do have a motion for this one to get onto the board. It's Angela's, but Angela, have you talked or? Do you want to have a quick talk? And we'll go, while you're talking, we'll go to item, Angela, do you want to have a quick talk? Well, okay, Angela, let's get yours up on the board. Paula may second it. Because yours is ready to go, isn't it?
Yeah, so was mine. I sent mine into Leanne about a week ago.
Look, I've accepted Angela's. Can you get it, is it ready to go onto the board, Becca, or not? Yes. So, Paula, once it's on the board, you may be able to adapt it to suit what you want.
What page are we on?
I had no idea about Paula's. Sorry, Paula, I just didn't know about your one.
Slightly attached to the zoo, but not exclusive to the zoo. It was in a suite of recommendations, one of which related to the zoo and one related to Lake Waiwhakariki.
So do you want to second this, or do you want to ask Angela if she wants to modify it?
I'm happy to second that.
No, hang on. I might like the option of that since I had a similar. Goes a bit further than I was going to go, but I'm happy to. I'm happy. I'm happy to second. I'm happy to second it.
So, Angela, just want to talk to it, talk to the financial implications that you're aware of.
This is an option from the staff report, isn't it? I should know, shouldn't I? There's so many of them.
So it's page
this is option-
349.
Yeah, so this is option one. So this is the same as I think Councillor, or is it further than yours, Paula? So we.
What I was seeking is to get the park open with the basic facilities in the beginning, and then you're taking it through to the full implementation, to fully, yeah.
Oh, with the review. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just a review, I can live with that. I was going to. My main thing was to get the place open with toilet, picnic area, interpretation boards. You know, we discussed that.
Yeah. So yeah, all it is that option one to do the short-term projects, and then it was important to me that we do review the Natural Heritage Park because it's long overdue. Plus, that review was linked into the work that we did on the zoo plan. That once that was completed, and it is completed, we would review this plan, and then I wanted to look at a future program of implementation to fully deliver that vision. So it's future work. It's not impacting on this.
Okay, so it's option one and the financial implications at the top of page 351, is that right, Ange? So $750,000 in year one and then $250,000 going forward. Is that?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, the motion's wrong. It's got option two.
Two. Option one, surely, Angela.
Sorry.
Option one.
Okay, Ange, you're debating. You're on. Sorry, okay.
Of staff, if I could, just that on top of page 351, your table with the operating expenses, is it really correct that they are 225,000 a year just related to the 760,000 capital, Maria? Because that seems an awful lot higher proportion of, if the capital's only 760,000, having a third of that every year for operational costs seems very high. I'm just wondering whether they're the operational costs for all of Waiwhakariki or just for the extra component, because we've already got I was going to say a shitload of stuff there, but...
Shed load.
Shed load, thank you. I was searching for an alternate.
There is an awful lot of extra being built for the capital expenditure.
For the three.
Yes, and remembering that the tracks are gravel tracks that require more maintenance in terms of topping up the staffing level. So this option is about getting the park open, which it currently isn't. So currently the park has about one FTE dedicated, and there's no regular.
No,
sort of everyday
sure.
visit,
I just want to check that it wasn't a mistake, because it was a higher than normal proportion. That's all.
Yeah,
I
and there is
understand
some extra boardwalks and things that, toilets. It's really is getting the infrastructure into this park that will enable it to be open. I noted that the motion on the board included 50% external funding, which hasn't been factored into the proposal figures.
So that would be just for the capital, would it? Because it's from your option two on the one on the front.
The option one in the report was proposing solely council funding without any external funding, because we have already received from our partners in volunteer and in fundraising efforts from Tui 2000, the model to date to get to the park to where it is has been roughly a third HCC, a third Tui 2000 and a third volunteer labour. So we hadn't factored in any external funding to get the infrastructure.
But it would be conceivable that some of them would want to keep funding the capital, if not the operating?
Yeah, so to date, they have just funded plant purchases, which are have been readily available through different funds and grants. TUI 2000 have indicated that they would be willing to shift their funding focus, given that they've now secured 4 years' worth of planting funding. But that 50% has not been tested, and we would, need to see where that could come from.
So I'm just trying to get a handle on, if we get any extra funding, it's going to be for the 760,000, a contribution towards that, most likely. But we don't quite know the amount, but I mean, they've only given 10, 20,000 in the past, sort of value per year.
TUI 2000?
Yeah.
No, their contribution has been significant. So they've got 80,000 for the next 4 years. So yeah, 20,000.
Oh, so that's on top of this.
Yeah.
It's just not quite clear what. So we wouldn't, for the next 4 years, we wouldn't get anything from them because they're already committed.
So they have committed funds for purchase of actual plants.
Yeah, but that's not part of the 760.
So it's not part of that, no.
So what about anyone else like Well Trust and Trust Waikato and Grassroots? Oh no, we're not got gambling money anymore. Forgot.
So yeah, TUI 2000 have indicated that they could shift their funding focus. To date, as I say, they've
To
been...
help get it open, you mean?
Well, their preference would be obviously that we get it open, but they have indicated that they could shift their funding focus.
Okay, I'm just trying to tease out a budgetary
We could work with TUI.
of that.
Yeah.
that's all.
Okay, so I've asked Stephen to bring up on the board what effect this is going to have on the 10-year plan.
It's more than the cost of eyesight each
So
year.
Steve, are you...
Yeah, I won't throw it up on the board because you're not going to see the numbers, but the $760,000 will increase debt. There will be no impact on 2019 rates of any noticeable amount, just the interest on that debt. And then in year 3, the 225 cost will be debt funded because we're not balancing the books in that year.
So what effect will it have on rates?
For 2019, no effect.
For 2000 and going forward after that?
It's going to, so with our 3.8% rates increases going forward, it means in 2021 we'll have to fund the $225,000 from debt.
Okay. All right, so...
Sorry, I was just trying to get an answer, and staff really should be able to provide this. If we get a grant, how much from an outside or external, which is mentioned as a possibility, how much is it likely to be, which part of it's likely to come off? So that's
we could work with
best advice.
We could work with TUI 2000. Raising a half of 760,000 in year 1 of the next 10 would be really a very difficult target to reach.
How much?
Yep. Look, without...
If they've got 80,000, would they redirect the whole lot towards this project?
No.
They can't. So the funding grants that they've been granted so far are specific to providing plant purchases, so they can't redivert them to fund infrastructure.
Well, hang on, Maria, you just said that they'd TUI 2000 be willing to redirect their 80,000 potentially because they want it open.
I said they'd be willing to change their focus on fundraising efforts going forward. So that 80,000 has been locked in to buy plants for the project for the next 4 years.
But most capital funding programs would be over a couple of years, because we'd have to do this, we'd have to look at what was available and then do it over a couple of years.
Well, I sympathise with the movers of this motion because that's not what not what the staff advice says. The staff advice is option 1, which has got a column saying 760,000 in year 1. Sorry, that's what I'm relying on.
That was
not
based
over
on
2
full funding.
years. Sorry?
That was based on full funding, full council funding.
I don't think, I don't think you guys understand what we're trying to do. Is to get a budget here, we need to know the costs that are likely to come. If it's 760,000, all up for us and no chance of any other funding, that's fine. If there's a chance of funding, where does it apply? What does it change the figures to?
Stephen or Sean or David?
Well, it's the operational staff sort of would know that. Stephen wouldn't.
No, okay.
It would rely on, so we hadn't factored in an external funding component to this amount, to this capital amount. We'd need to scope our options around what was available. What I'm saying is 50% of 760 in the first year of the 10 years would be a difficult target for us to achieve. We could probably do it over 3 years, but it wouldn't get Waiwhakariki open in year 1.
Okay, so we've got this up on the board, have we? Or we know where we're going? You know exactly what it is? Okay.
I'm still unclear about the money. Is this 380 we're talking about? Because there's no figures up there. It's 380, is it?
No, well, there's your, on the top of page...
I've got it in front of me, but,
Yep.
but it says 50% up there, so...
We assume that's 380.
That, we assume that's 380,
Richard,
do we?
we
'Cause
need
it should
you
be
to-
in there, I would have thought.
Steve, Richard, you need to help the staff here. Thanks. Well, no, you need to have a quick, quiet call, talk with them and get a grip on where we're going.
Why is it the figure not in the motion?
So it's just a funding, like we do with the playgrounds, where we go 2/3 public money and 1/3 external, and that's what this is. So it's the same. It's a funding plan.
I can't support this.
Staff have advised us
that we're not going to get it.
3 years to get that half from the community, which would then you could reduce the year 1 to 760. It's 380, sorry, from 760 to 380, and you'd cut out years 2 and 3 operational because they've said it wouldn't open until you've got the stuff all in place, more or less. So you'd take out the years 2 and 3 of 225 as well.
Obviously, if we got the funding earlier, but committing to raising 350 when there's a number of other major capital projects happening at the same time is a difficult target for staff.
Andrew, just given that advice, look, I'll withdraw that at this point and then get Councillor Southgate's one up and just see. Because if the staff are saying that's a tough call.
It is a tough call.
I mean, I'm guided by. I mean, they know.
I mean, we would aim for it, but I wouldn't commit to 350 in year 1. If we had a 3-year target and we achieved it earlier, we could.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we could put in a third of the 350 over 3 years and then kick in the operational funding from that year going forward. Would be the most conservative position we'd agree to.
Let's see Paula's.
Sure.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Paula, have you got your amendment ready? Your motion? Okay.
We should do, but she can do what she likes because it's what's up on the table.
Why is this option?
Are we on a different page now?
No, but the option.
Yeah, what's the no community funding? Angela changed it by going to community funding for half of this. We'll say no.
So why didn't you just go for option 1? No changes. So Ange, why didn't you just go for option 1?
With no community funding.
Because I am going to attempt the Zoom as well, and Paula goes halfway to that. Can we just take a couple of minutes to confirm?
So there's 2 motions we're working through at the moment.
There's one at the moment.
So we have an amendment from Deputy Mayor as well, which is the same as so they could collaborate and we can put it out there and see it on
Yeah, we'll do it as soon as I get back. As soon as I get back. Hey guys, Leo, just before you go, I need a time extension for an hour. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dave. Okay, all those for? Any against?
Not past 12, no, absolutely not past 12.
Stop. I've asked for an extension for an hour. I've got a seconder. I'm putting it to the vote. All those for, raise your hands. No, 1 hour from now. So if we at 12, if we need to go a few minutes over, we can without. From an hour from now. Okay. All those against? Carried. Leanne, can you get other staff back in, please? Can you get our members back in? Okay.
Oh, exactly option 1. So that's on page 350.
Okay,
So this is option 1.
This is option 1.
okay, we're going straight to debate. Ange, you moved it.
I
Paula,
think
Paula.
Deputy Mayor did. It's all
Okay, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so he's given up his right to speak, so is Paula, so is Ange. Let's go to the board. Yep, Gary. We're speaking, we're not asking questions.
Yep,
Debate.
okay, yep. Go ahead. So we're debating now?
Yeah, debating.
Option 1, sorry, so that's the one that says,
I've offered it to everybody, they turned it down. You're on. Okay, go.
Speech.
Okay, go.
This is about very important partnership with the university and all the other players, you know that. I think we'll sacrifice the zoo entry and everything else, but I do think this one is a critical project we make progress with because there's a lot of other partners, so I think we should test it. By all means, let's hear submissions during the annual plan, but I urge you to support this one.
Okay, Councillor Gary.
thank you, I can't support it. The operating expenses are $225,000 per year, which is $250,000. You put the cost on the capital expenditure at about 5.5% is another $42,000. So the net operating expense, this is before depreciation and things like that, is about $267,000, which is simply too much.
Councillor Ange.
Thank you. Look, I fully support this, and I think we've come to a reasonable conclusion that hopefully most of you will be able to support. We need to give the public access to the park. We really do, and this is a massive sacrifice because I too want the entrance to the zoo and the park, and we will live to fight another day with that one. I was going to also put a motion forward to open the second part to put some capital money towards the enhanced Savannah exhibit, but that is in later years, and that's another LTP, and I'll live to fight that another day as well.
Councillor Paula.
I absolutely support this. The amount of community effort, and both in volunteer hours, is absolutely extraordinary if you count it over the last 10, 11 years of plantings. It's going to be one of the jewels in the crown for Hamilton. It's actually, I'm not sure if councillors are aware that Bruce Clarkson attended an overseas conference and received an International Urban Restoration Award based on this project. That's how special this project is. It's not just any planting project. This is a ecosystem restoration project that the rest of the world are taking notice of in an urban setting. And, you know, there's no point having done something so magnificent if we don't do the little bit more that we need to do to allow the public to access it. Look, Doc has many, many parks, and every one of their little parks, they have, you know, a basic toilet, a basic interpretation sign, and a picnic table or something like that, and a shelter and some reasonable paths. That's all I'm asking for this very special project.
Councillor Mark.
I would have supported it if it had included the zoo bit, actually, because I've spoken in favour of the zoo, and I think the zoo is going to be our next tourist trap from the gardens. I won't be supporting this one, regretfully. It's no disrespect to Waiwhakariki, and maybe in the future I will support it as it keeps going along. It's not going to stop because we don't do this. I think there's some great work going in there, but to be honest, I've never set foot in the park. So yeah, I know, shame on me.
Mark,
but I understand.
Finish your speech.
Yeah, okay, I understand it'll be great for an eyesight. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to, I'll speak. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dave.
Okay, I was just going to point out to Councillor Bunting that the bugs and slugs down in the Waiwhakariki have far more public support than do the cheetahs and lions and so forth up in the zoo. But he will no doubt, if too many people vote against this, find out how much support.
Councillor Siggy.
Well, I was probably like Councillor Bunting until this year that I did go in there because I just thought it was whatever, something there. And I was really impressed. And so I will support this, and we will not have a gold-plated toilet there. I'm still talking about composting toilets and things like that. So I want to see that it's going to be clean, green, no 1080, no nothing like that. So that... no fluoride, no nothing like that. No, we'll just stay clean, green, and that's going to be our start for Clean Green City. Yeah, so I'll support that.
Mark Bunting, I urge you to change your mind. This is a natural heritage park. This has got a beautiful lake in it. This is a place that's going to open to the public. This is a natural part of our country. It's not large exotic animals kept in small cages who pace up and down and rock back and forwards, and you have to wonder whether they're even sane. Our animals that are on this side of the area in Waiwhakariki are free, they're natural, they're native. So Mark, you still have an opportunity to vote for this. Let's go to the board.
No pressure, sunshine. No pressure.
Mine's not working.
The motion is carried 10-4 to against.
Okay, so now, guys, we haven't got a lot of time left. Can I just get a bit of a reality check here? Firstly, is out of my budget, the $5 million for eyesight per year came, $5 million overall, $6 million came out. As well as that, and I thought this was right and staff have confirmed it, the $25 million for the theatre is on top of the 80 million that we're flat out spending to get up to the 80 million. So it's actually 110 million. Okay, do you follow where I'm going? Is that right, Steve?
In terms of investment in community infrastructure, in the community sector, the $30 million and the $4 million for indoor rec isn't included in the schedule that we put up before.
And we've just spent more money now. So on my list, look, I'm just trying to clean up the rest of this. On my list, I've got the Hamilton Zoo master plan, which I think there's no support for. Is that right, Angela?
I'd love to, but I'm being pragmatic.
Yeah. We've got the River Plan Museum. Do you still want to test that, Paula?
Oh, yes, I do, but I suspect that now any community spend's going to struggle for anybody to second it because we've spent up front on it.
So, hey, stop. I'm talking to Paula, please, Gary.
Yeah.
Can Paula...
I would like to have tested. I don't
Okay,
know.
well, so we'll
I
come
don't
back-
know if I think my seconder may have dropped off.
Okay, so we'll come back to that one. Hang on. So we've got the riverbank slips. Ange, are you okay to let that one go? Or do you want to test it?
You've got in the budget. There's 50,000, isn't there, to investigate? Is that right?
Okay. Can someone look at that and we'll come back to it?
Yeah.
The skate park, Ange.
All I was wanting there was just to see if we had spoken to H-Town, because the last conversation that I had with them, they said we don't want council funding, but could we have some time to prepare a case that they could have the funding. So they kind of wanted to just put a hold on the land. Have we had an update on that?
I haven't, sorry, Angela.
So I guess that will tease out
can come back
through
anytime, can't it?
submissions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's fine.
Gully
Well, the
Restaurant.
only thing is that unless we want to do something else with the land,
Well,
There's nothing in the
we
budget.
haven't got anything else
No,
in the
that's right,
long-term plan
okay.
for it, so.
Is it
Gully,
good faith?
gully restoration, is anyone want to go any further with that?
We got whaiwhakariki and you have to
Okay.
sacrifice.
Planting on roundabouts, Gary, can we let that go, please?
Oh, to save money. Well, that should be to save money.
Yeah, but we're not going to get support, so instead of going through a half-hour process on it, can you let it go?
Yeah.
You don't have to. If you insist, we'll redress it. It's your call.
No, all right.
You let it go? Okay. Ange, can you let the REAP go?
Ooh.
No,
It's built into your budget's funded, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would like to know the reasons why.
So you want to address the REAP?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. So coming back to that, Dave, social housing,
Yeah, I want to vote on that. Discussion.
you want to test that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're testing three. We're testing the River Plan Museum, the REAP and the social housing, okay?
New one put up by, which I gave you a copy of before. Or, it's a savings one,
No, I
actually,
don't know.
that Gary and I have put up.
Sorry.
Email
race instalment by electronic.
Yep.
Which I had planned to
Okay.
do.
Yeah, but we didn't think you should be able to use that as part of your 5 million. That's ours.
I plan to use it as part of my 5 million.
We suspect it.
So can we leave that one, Dave, since the...
No, we think it should be extra over and above that. Seriously.
Do you want to test it?
Well, it stitches me up by a few 100,000, that's all.
Well, I also think that we need to go and check what the numbers are now, like Dave and I
Yeah, well,
talked about.
that's your job while we're talking. You can do that as we go. When you're ready, we'll put it up.
He's not at work.
Keep going, guys. So where are we? Sorry?
Place, car park, which was one issue I rose, but I don't think it's got onto this work plan at all.
So what do you want?
That's the removal of the free parking in the underground car park in Garden Place.
Okay.
And I understood
Yep.
from a staff member that could save 200,000, which is almost the eyesight expense.
Okay.
The eyesight plus 3 coffees.
Okay. So let's start with the easy one. Rob, can you get your amendment written up and get it in your motion?
Pull our digital invoice.
Gift that.
It's a gift to the
Okay.
CEO.
All right.
So it's gonna
Do you want to write up a motion, or do you want to leave that with the CEO to?
Well, I'm presupposing that the information I got from a staff member is correct. So,
I need to work, I don't think it is, but I need time to work on that one.
okay.
I
well,
think it's
look,
tied up with the fact that Centre Place.
it doesn't need to be a 10-year plan option, but it would, if the comment is correct, then it would be an easy way for us to add 200,000 in parking fees.
Okay.
But I think we've already previously said we're bringing it to growth and infrastructure in February.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
All right. Helen on the slips.
Yeah, okay.
It's unfunded. What, was there a question or?
Yes, there was.
Yeah, sorry, my question was around really how wise that was given that we are experiencing more slips, and in the last we've had two slips a year on average for the last 9 or so years. Why are we not recommending to budget for that? It's probably to the CEO, actually.
So our operational budget in the parks area would cope with those 2 slips a year for investigations. It wouldn't cope with the repairs.
Yeah.
That would be something that would come to risk and opportunities or through the finance committee. What we're saying is that if elected members think that the likelihood of us getting more slips, we had an extraordinary event last winter, we think. And through the briefings, we flagged that there is a risk that our operational budget wouldn't cope going forward. So that's what that 50,000 a year was
Yeah,
for.
so the 50,000 is an OPEX annually for investigating. I guess my concern is things like this are occurring more and we're not budgeting for them, and my overlaying concern is that we are indicating that we're using the risks and opportunities budget line as a sort of a catch-all, and it's actually it's not a risk and an opportunity in the effect that we actually know that these are occurring more often.
To be fair, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if we put in even if it was $500,000 per annum. The issue is, though, the reason we didn't put it forward is that it's more of it'd be an absolute guesstimate. We could base it on a long run average of previous expenditure, and so forth. But the reason we didn't put it up was it was unsupported, and it'll be a degree of a guess.
Yeah.
And we did ask for an investigation or a second go at the insurance companies over contributions to those type of costs.
It will continue to be, but we haven't had some success yet, have we?
So the insurance companies will insure assets but not land. And so typically our losses have been around land.
But we've had to repair the
It was my thing to put on the board, I haven't moved anything.
Yeah.
Do they cover?
I don't want to.
I believe not, because of the naturally occurring event.
What? Hang on, if my house gets blown over in a hurricane, my insurance covers that? It's a naturally occurring event.
Yeah, the house, so the asset, but not the land.
Yeah, so I'm saying, very often our paths or wall, retaining walls and things like that, which are physical constructions, surely they should be covered.
So oh, sorry, Councillor Dave.
I was just asking why insurance. I can understand the land argument, but our assets are often damaged in those events.
Yeah, so Blair, you've worked previously on the insurance space, and David, you're currently working on the insurance space. Do either of you have a response to Councillor Dave's question? Were people listening to Councillor Dave's question?
Sorry, no, I was looking at
insurance. In respect to the slips, in respect to riverbank slips, we've been told the insurance company won't insure land. In some cases, our property's damaged as a consequence. Is that insured?
To my knowledge, our material damage and infrastructure policies have not covered the land to date.
And no, what about other property and assets as a consequence?
I mean, we used to have a situation where bridges weren't covered, but now they are under our new policy. So I can't see why, for instance, the river walkway, which has been damaged by some of these slips and have to restore cantilever parts and things like that, why that isn't equivalent.
So I think we'll take an action away, and Councillor Dave has asked David. The other aspect, which I didn't comment before and which I wasn't thinking about till Stephen reminded me, is whenever we fund these things, they will be funded out of debt. So, and it's almost supporting your view, and it's self-insurance. That's why we maintain a degree of debt capacity from a resilience point of view. So we don't look to include the item, because we expect if they arise, they'll be funded out of the capacity we've created in our debt, which is effectively our from 2012 through 2015 and to date is the reason why we maintained a degree of increasing debt capacity. So we could include it in there and take some additional money from the ratepayer, which we may or may not need, or we could put it on against debt when we do need it. And so that was the argument behind it, which supports your self-insurance type approach anyway, Councillor Dave.
I wasn't necessarily calling for the money, but I'm thinking to be allocated from rates. But I was saying if we're going to plan for it one way or another, then we should be hitting up the external partners that we pay insurance to.
You're definitely going to follow that aspect up, which is an administrative response, so we'll do that. In terms of the 10-year plan, my recommendation after talking to Stephen is probably best just to leave our debt capacity as our response to funding it, should it ever occur, less any contributions we may well be able to achieve through our insurance company.
So, look, I'd be comfortable with that, and if,
The REAP, what I asked for was the same amount of money that we've got in year 1 and 2 to continue over to year 3 and 4, so that we could continue to basically streamline our district plan and going out to other issues that may come up in things like the building area or other areas in council. So if anyone wants to challenge that, they need to put up a motion because it's already in here, so you need to put up a motion to take that back off the REAP task force.
Progress is still underway. So it's achieved the work program to date, which is it's completed some data mining, it's completed some questionnaires, it's completed some interviews, it's got some draft observations.
If I can also help, on page 62, there talks about some of the program costs that we've identified from that so far. So from some of the interviews around communication, education plans, information sheets, the idea of doing the videoing and the workshops to help applicants deliver, speed line and take out the trimming in the next phase.
And the key thing for the next level of investment was probably less about the district plan, to be fair, Mr Mayor. It's more about the other aspects. Some of the feedback we're getting is there's a lot of areas, and particularly the infrastructure area, streamlining that area. We might move into other aspects of customer service mapping beyond the regulatory function and so forth. So it's a continuous improvement focus with a rules reduction focus.
So Rob, have you got a motion to put up on that?
Yes, I have.
Could you speak it out so that we can find a seconder?
Yeah, I've just given it to Becca.
Becca, could you read it out, please?
Just a question. I thought we'd only funded the REAP for 1 year, and that was the 750. Why are we talking about the second year of funding the REAP, and then this is the third and fourth years? This I assume
I might have got that wrong.
assume is for the third and fourth years.
Here it is, 700,000 for year 2 and 3. On,
What page is this on?
26, page 62. 62,
Is for 2 and 3. So year 1, we do get funding.
Year 1 is the idea of rolling out the findings from this. Sorry, the findings that we're doing now. Yes, sorry. No. The findings to roll out the findings from the work we've done last year and in this year is 150k to roll those out in that year. Then the Mayor has suggested that in years 2 and 3 we would then redo a REAP on whether it be building control or customer service mapping or engineering components or whatever it is around that piece.
I mean, this is mine. If you want to take it off me, give me your hands and I'll just leave it alone. I'm happy to take it out if...
Sorry.
I don't want to take it out, but if you really want to challenge it, of course I'll let it go.
Is it an extra 1.4 million on top of the 750-ish?
It's an additional 1.3 over 10 years.
How do you get that? I thought it was 1.4 in years 2 and 3. Is it for 700,000 in each of years 2 and 3?
Hang on, I'm on paragraph 26, Rob.
I'm on 26 too, yep.
Mine says 1.3.
Oh, does it?
So it's 1.4, it's 700,000.
1.4.
700 in years 2 and 3.
So is that 700,000 in each of the years? Or is it 700,000 in total?
Calvin, did you write this?
No, I didn't. But what I was doing a little table before. What I've got here is what I understand from my discussions with the Mayor was that year 1 was 150 for the delivery of projects that emanate from the work we're doing now. Then we would replicate in years 2 and 3, so that would be 150 plus 700 in years 2, 700 in years 3. And then there is 50k per annum from years 2 to 10 to continue the delivery of anything that falls out of there. So that's more than 1.3.
But didn't we approve 750 for the year for
now,
this particular? Yes.
Which was both over 2 years. So last year we spent 325 in this year. Yep.
Okay.
So it was over 2 years period.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That is correct.
So the 750 was to spend over the period, depending on as it got spent. It wasn't allocated to specific years.
Correct.
So now we're looking
at a new set of work.
Am I correct now that we're looking at another 700,000 in year 2, and another 700,000 in year 3?
Yeah, that's how it's written there. But I don't think that was the intent to do 700 each year. Should be 350 each year.
It seems a huge amount of money.
It's a lot of money. I don't think it was 700 years 2 and 3. It was 700 cumulative, because it was basically to replicate what we had said that we were doing now, to then replicate that out. So it should be 350 in years 2 and 350 in years 3.
Which brings the total project to how much?
So it'll be 150 in year 1, 350, so 750, so 850, 900.
Plus what we've spent in this financial year.
Yes, correct.
Which is 750-ish.
Can we get this set out? I know it's late.
Let me do a little table up and I'll send it out to you.
And maybe we should discuss this tomorrow.
As long as that's correct with you, Your Worship.
Well, we're locking all these in tonight, so do your stuff tonight, we'll go on to the next paper.
Sure.
Okay, so we're on social housing, Dave?
It's moved by me and seconded by Martin.
Sorry,
being a
can you
loyal
tell us what
deputy
page
mayor.
we're on?
It's page 502.
Lying bastard.
It's not on any page.
This isn't an unfunded item, this is one that's come up during
Blue Sky
this
one, is
10-year
it?
plan, so there's no report.
I think it's a Red Sky one.
Okay, do you want to just talk it through and explain it to us, Dave?
In February 2019, we received the final payment from Accessible Properties Limited from the sale of our pensioner housing a couple of years back, which was a terrible mistake, but it's happened. And that's 18.5 million. We think given Martin and I, well, I'll speak for myself, I think that given the housing needs in the community that have been well reported to us and in a widespread way, there is a great need for social housing to be provided. We don't think that it's possible realistically for council to be in that business providing, but there are providers for that in the city and who would operate in the city. We think we should divert 2 million of that 18.5 million that's coming back in to the council and would otherwise be used to retire debt, to be put in a fund, to be a contestable fund, to be applied for in the following triennium, following 3 years, for the use of social housing providers. So in other words, a contribution from us towards other social housing providers.
Okay, can we ask staff what the effects that's going to have on the rates and firstly, what effects that can have on the rates?
So we've already budgeted to receive the money, so that's already reducing our debt. So in the first year of the LTP, year one, we will spend $2 million that we haven't budgeted for as an operating cost. That's as I understand it, Dave?
No, it's off. It reduces debt. It's not a reduction in operating costs.
We've already reduced the debt by the 18.5 in the budget.
Hang on, that can't be right. If you're taking it off debt, the operating cost is the lost interest from it, since it will be 2/3 the way through the year, it won't be the whole amount either for year one. It will be for year two onwards. I mean, we're not suggesting there be a one...
Council standing policy is that the revenue from the sale of assets is used to reduce debt, and so that's how we've budgeted. So in February 2019, our debt reduces by 18.5 million. That's where the budget stands today.
If you look at the Part B of the motion, clearly says approve that the balance of 16.5 million be used to repay debt. So in other words, the 2 million is taken off first. It doesn't go into repaying debt as the motion. I'm not asking everyone to agree, I'm just saying that's how it would work.
$2 million.
But you want to spend the $2 million on something, don't you?
I want to put it into a fund, which until spent would certainly earn council interest.
So, yeah, that's fine. I need to budget for when it's spent.
Stephen, I think debt will not reduce by 2 million. Debt will reduce by 16.5 million instead of 18.5 million.
Yeah.
So the interest we will incur as a consequence of not reducing our debt by so much at 5.5%, which I'm not sure how accurate that is.
That's the cost.
That's $110,000 interest per annum, and if that interest rate's right, so that's not.
So we're going to spend $110,000 per annum.
No, we will. Sorry, our interest rate, our interest cost will be $110,000 greater than it would have been because our debt has been. Our debt is going to be $2 million higher than it would have been. That's for a full year at 5.5%. I'm not too sure how.
So in year one, it's going to be about 40,000. Year two onwards, it'll be 110,000.
Yep.
Because of the timing.
Yeah, so Councillor Dave, initially we're going to put that $2 million into what?
Into a contestable social housing fund.
And then the contestable social
held
housing
by
fund.
the council.
Yeah, but that contestable social housing fund, are you intending to use the interest from that fund or are you intending to use the principal from that fund?
We haven't talked about that yet.
No, the reason I'm just trying to work out is how we treat it. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to work out what the next
You're
steps
going to use
are.
it for grants, aren't you?
Yeah, the $2 million is going to be used for grants.
Okay.
This is silent on how the internal interest of that would be treated, but since it's a council fund, I think with your other funds that you've had in the past, you've treated that as general council income.
Yep, so your $2 million that you put aside for contestability, are you expecting that will deplete over 10 years and you'll give it all away?
In fact, over 3 years.
You'll give away $2 million over 3 years, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's what should be allowed for in the budget.
It's an operating expense debt funded?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, yep.
Okay.
That's what the impact of that is. So that's what I was just trying to understand.
Yeah. So the effect on rates in year one is approximately 40,000. The effect on rates in year two onwards is 110,000.
So basically what you're saying is, hey, we're more than willing to, which for Councillor Mallet, deficit fund this because there's actually proceeds sitting somewhere to offset that deficit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, can we go straight to debate? Dave, quick.
Is this going to reduce our debt revenue capacity in year one or two?
Richard, you're supposed to be listening.
Richard, is this going to reduce our debt revenue capacity by $2 million in year one or two? Is it all?
Yeah, we'll have less because we'll effectively over 3 years this money will be paid out. Where our debt capacity will reduce.
Right.
So
yeah.
Debt ratio, which I'm not sure that you can see the 2 million on those graphs we've been seeing.
We'll enlarge it. We can go back to this one.
Okay. Steve, just yell out when you're ready, okay? Just interrupt. Okay.
Councillor Pascoe, to your question, we can clarify what it is. So, the REAP 2, which is not a movie, will be hit in years 2 and 3 of 350 and 350, just as we've done last year and in this year. Then there's execution of 150, which is projects emanating from the work we're doing now.
REAP 1.
REAP 1. And then suggestion there's 50 ongoing for us to do things. That there means 700 in terms of REAP and 600 in terms of execution, which is the 1.3 total.
Okay. And further
So
to that,
just to finish off here, we'll come back to you in a sec, Councillor Gary, and then so basically.
So that's where you get that 1.3.
Yeah,
So we're actually 700.
Okay, all right. So I've got some questions.
So your motion's not right now?
Does not approve funding for the REAP project. No.
Your figures aren't right.
Estimated at 750, estimated at 1.3 million, no, estimated at 700,000 in years 3 and 4, and 50 times 10 is 500,000. Is that right?
Rob, can we just be clear, 700,000 in each of 3 and 4, or over 3 and 4?
Yeah, 700 in each of you. Yeah, okay. Estimated at 350,000 in each years 3 and 4.
Why don't we just say 350,000 in year 3, 350,000 in year 4?
Okay.
Be really simple.
Okay.
Can I ask a question of the governance manager? Given that this is baked into the budget that we approved, isn't this a direct negative? Even though it's a separate motion coming at a separate time?
I've been grappling with that myself, to be honest. When we say it's baked into the budget, which of the resolutions that we passed earlier, guys, is it contained in?
It was the operating budget subject to future recommendations.
Andrew's base
Subject to.
Yeah, so the subject to sort of gives us a bit of a royal out.
That's our out clause.
Yeah.
And and we
Yeah.
should change after years 4 and ongoing annual costs
Still don't know.
of 50,000 in each of the 10 years from
9 years.
9 years from year, 150,000 in year 1
Still thinking.
and 50,000 in each of the following 9 years.
The only to test that with you, councillor, is that distribution of work
15 or
done
50?
this year and last year. So if we don't
Yeah,
have that,
yeah.
we've had nothing.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So that's already been approved, has it?
Well, in the operating budget now.
Yeah, okay.
Subject to you taking it out. I mean, you can fill it up.
We're so close.
Okay.
Right there.
Look, do you want me to give the reasons why?
If you want to move it, and let's test the room.
Okay.
I'm going to do it anyway, because I think we are beginning to get into the realm of silly decision making. I personally, and I'll speak for myself, can no longer think in a very dedicated and rational way at 5 to 12 after a 15-hour day. Even in Parliament, they have rules about rosters and sitting times that we've far and
I'm sorry,
exceeded.
Councillor Southgate, if you're putting a procedural motion, you need to just put a
I'm putting a
procedural motion.
procedural motion that we adjourn. It's going to be, yeah.
Yeah, so we need a seconder. We're very close to wrapping this up, so staff can work on it overnight, but. Okay, we'll go to the board to vote. Yeah, 2:30.
The procedural motion is carried 8-4, 4 against.
Okay, so we're back at 2:30 tomorrow. So we've just got the 3 things to do tomorrow. We've got the REAP to finish off, we've got the social housing, and we've got the River Plan Museum. Meanwhile, staff, could you do what you're doing tonight so that tomorrow at 2:30, we know where we're going, what we're doing? And can you include in the 3 things that are still on the board so we know what effects that's going to have as well? Either way, yep. Social housing, REAP.
Should also be looking at the questions and problems in our earlier discussion about
They'll look at that overnight, yeah.
We'll see what happens on the river plan amendment. What you got to stress in the chair, you and I might support a slight
River plan?